The Teaching About Parasites by Eleazar Harash, translated by Ruah Ezekiel, narrated by Daniel King. 5th of June 2012. The Teaching About Parasites, Lecture 1, Perception, First Idea for Contemplation. The Teaching About Parasites, continued. Impeccability, Second Idea for Contemplation. Proverbs and Sayings of Atlantis, Lecture 3. The Priest Atlantean, Third Idea for Contemplation. Let us do our protective formula. The Teaching About Parasites, Lecture 1. Parasites have their own secret history outside of the development of organisms. The main door for the parasites remains the ego, because every inadequate act is a participation of these parasites. This act is an entry. An impure and contaminated consciousness merges with the parasites, and it can no longer live without them. They feed each other. I am giving 2 examples right away. One case with a woman I know. She goes to the market and says, "Set this and this and this aside for me. I do not want anything," and she leaves. She charges herself, but this will cost her dearly. Another case, a man walks into a small bookstore. 2 women inside are talking. One of them is holding a small dog. He says, "What is this big dog? It scares me." He walks out and they start talking about him. They are feeding him, and they do not know this is his way of draining energy. But these are people who have no source. They have lost something, and they are looking for things like this. So you must be vigilant to know how to help them secretly and to not become attached to words. Parasites are penetrating. They can enter on the inside and shape desires, interests, moods, and all sorts of plans in your life. The worst is when the parasites enter into the consciousness and they start to rule its behavior. According to the toltecs, humankind cannot understand that it has become food for a very old fallen civilization of parasites, which originates from the second subrace of Atlantis, Tlavatli. Some time ago we spoke a little of them. In time we will speak more. This is the second subrace, in which the Martians entered. They are in unity with the Martians. Later, this race became even stronger through the 4th and most dangerous race, the Proto-Turanians, and that the battle with this parasitic civilization is still ongoing. It is known today not as Tlavatli, but as the Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil. Simply the name is different. The healing of this parasitic civilization is only one, through impeccability. Here we are speaking from the viewpoint of the toltecs. Of course, for us it is formulas, purification, nobility, especially pure acts in all conditions, but for the toltecs it was this method, impeccability. According to the toltecs, the person themselves, because of their own lack of understanding, allows the parasites to divert them from the right way, and so, through many allowances, the parasites become stronger. They take over the will and the intentions of the person, and they reprogram the person. When a person makes a very firm decision to walk in the way of truth, they already have the key for the gradual paralyzing of all parasites. Once you have fallen in your words and in the word, then more or less you have already been possessed and overtaken. Thought is unpronounced word, and once you pronounce it, it already affects both your thinking and your actions. And this is why you must be careful and observe every thought, every word, not the ones coming towards you. That does not matter, but what comes out of you. As we will talk later of perception, it does not matter what is happening on the outside, but what you perceive, because the impure word, when you allow it, it changes you. You already have no choice. It will influence you, and it will change your way of thinking until it leads you into ruin. There are parasites that use the energy of your words and give a totally different direction of that energy. They change it. You wanted to say one thing and something else happened, i.e., people have fallen into the parasites, in the insidiousness of these backward spirit beings. These parasites are capable of ruining the energy of words and of giving a completely new direction. Criticism. This is another parasite destroyer. Recently I heard a lot of rain, a lot of things. This is so elementary. Are you not happy that there are no earthquakes and it is only raining, for example? Many things can be said, but anyway, simple things. Besides, whatever happens, the important thing is that you are centered in God. There, the perception is different. So, criticism is a dangerous destroyer which slowly disfigures life. This is why in the Bible it is said, do not judge, i.e., preserve your consciousness pure. The Toltecs say that this parasite, criticism, gradually writes for the person the book of hell. This parasite produces many words parasites. These are words from which the person must guard themselves, because they rob their path, they rob their development, they shift it. The critical person destroys themselves. They are easily reprogrammed to failure and fall. They travel both in and out in mitot, i.e. in chaos. When the person uses impure and cynical words, the parasites have entered into them. They are talking, of course, with the person's voice, and the person is infected. In this way, the parasites are diligently working for the person's fall. Parasites like to make people set aside a lot of time for trivial things. Another of their strategies. A lot of time for trivial things, secondary, tertiary, and also to buy many useless things. All of this is for the ones who are not in control of themselves. Parasites are also bringers of dissatisfaction, greed, disapproval, worrying, because they themselves have lost their essence. They have a mind, but they do not have an essence. They have no soul, and therefore they are looking for victims. What removes the parasites most is love. The Toltecs say love leaves pure white traces in other people and in other beings as a whole, animals too, etc. Perception. First idea for contemplation. Emotion originates from the inferior soul. Perception originates from the supreme soul. And intuition is a current from the spirit. Emotions and feelings can never bring serenity. They have no reach. Perception is something else. Perception is another thing. Perception is calmed by intuition. It has a wide reach. Perception is a spiritual ability, not a psychic one, and therefore, through it, you may create life within yourself. The pure perception is a supreme expression of the soul. It is the sound of the soul. While intention is even deeper, it has deep roots within the spirit. Emotions and feelings fall. Why? Because they have some limited aims. We are speaking of the toltecs, who are great observers, who speak specifically from experience. Emotions and feelings have limited aims, while perception is all-encompassing. It can capture even the inexplicable and even instill it in itself. Perception requires that you have realization, soul. Perception is the pure and immortal dwelling of the soul itself. Through the emotions and feelings, knowledge is accumulated, and through perception, the person realizes their own soul. With the Toltecs, this is called il-namiki, reaching the spiritual remembering, a seeking inward, a seeking of yourself within yourself. With the emotions and feelings, you have neither true knowledge nor pure energy, and even while you supposedly understand things, or you speak them, you do not have pure knowledge, and you do not possess pure energy. The perception is not there, i.e. the soul. Therefore, you cannot transform yourself. You talk much, but there is no transformation. Parasites are incapable of perceiving pure and supreme currents of ideas, thoughts, and influence, because they have given up and they have separated themselves from the essence and from self-knowledge. According to the Toltecs, once you have chosen Tezcatlipoca, i.e. the false, the illusion in your life, then you will be persuaded by the parasites to perceive the illusion. They will persuade you, the parasites, to perceive the illusion in the world, and you will have no perceptions of reality. For the Toltecs, the pure perception is a strengthening of the pure consciousness within the person, and the pure consciousness is the immune system of the person, the true primordial immune system. What you perceive, say the Toltecs, is what is brought to life within you. What you do not perceive is what dies. It does not matter if it is something true or something else. What you do not perceive, you are removed from it and it dies. Perception decides what will live and what will die. To have the ability of perceiving a certain thing is a matter of depth and spirituality, a matter of self-awareness and impeccability. And, as I said, it does not matter what events are conspiring, heavy, light, or very light. The essential thing is what you perceive. If you are impeccable, you will perceive only divine things. Like in the case of Al-Hallaj, he says, there is only one nation. Whoever believes there are many nations, they do not know Allah, etc., etc. I will divert for a bit before I continue with the second lecture about parasites. Al-Halaj says, next time we will speak of him, but I want to hint something here. Golgotha and the Inquisition, I saw in them God's fragrance. Take note, I will not dwell on it because next time I will speak more of this. I will only hint. Golgotha, according to Al-Halaj, this is the other name of God. This is an exceptional honour to have Golgotha sent to you. This is the special love of God towards you. He is choosing you for himself. He is separating you from the world, separating you from death, separating you from the transient and perishable. And because of his great love, as Golgotha is a fierce mercy, mercy of a very high degree of which we have no notion, he is choosing you and taking you to himself. This is how Al-Halaj perceives. But we will speak of him next time, as the matter is of the greatest Sufi. The teaching about parasites continued. The parasites work very finely and imperceptibly, regardless of whether the person calls themselves overachieving. The parasites are working secretly within them and digging. Another dangerous parasite is pride, because it turns both health and happiness and success into punishment. Again, I will make a small diversion because I am reminded of Al-Halaj. He says, the proud person, this is a little better than the happy person. And he explains this masterfully because he has true knowledge. He says, both the proud person and the happy person are living together with a snake. But the proud person gets hurt quicker. Suffering comes quicker to them, while the happy person, the snake, is sleeping for a very long time. This parasite, pride, is especially dangerous, even more so when it is clothed as and imitating humility. It presents itself as humble, but this is treachery. Only the one who has achieved true humility will distinguish it very easily. For the others, it will be more or less difficult. Because of the parasites, the lives of many people are built on false notions, and the Master himself says, of all that you dream about, nothing will come true. God has a much better plan for people, and it is very good that it is so. Another time we will speak of the Master in this connection. The Toltecs say, anyone who has not firmly and totally loved truth, they have lost their right understanding of things. In this way, they have closed their path, and the parasites have entered into them. The illusion satisfies only young and immature consciousnesses, inexperienced seekers of truth. Some have chosen knowledge and information as the goal of life. This is another dangerous parasite because knowledge and information, say the Toltecs, can never replace love and impeccability. They can never replace them. And this parasite has become very clever. It has infiltrated into information in order to satisfy itself. Not to develop, but to satisfy itself. This is the way in which the externally anxious mind is created. The widest entry for the numerous parasites, as I said, remains the ego. This is a door wide open. The ego is a kingdom in which no sight can penetrate, say the Toltecs. The ego is a dark kingdom murky water, it is interested in both the lie and the delusions, even when it talks a lot of culture. The Toltecs knew through experience that the ego is never vested in truth. It has no such purpose, and therefore it never overcomes the illusion. On the contrary, it affirms itself more and more in the illusion. Recently, I met an old friend of mine, and he told me, "Of everything you speak, I believe you about nothing." Well done, there are no problems. Just a smile and joy, of course. I know the reasons. But I am telling him nothing. I have all sorts of friends of every kind, and I love all of them. The ego is always triumphant in the illusion, and this is its downfall. The ego is always accumulating inferior energy through which it fails. It does not matter what it accomplishes, it always fails. Parasites are, as I said, remnants of ancient worlds, evil from the past which must be worked through, evil that we must work through inside ourselves. The parasites like it when the person is mental and not spiritual, pondering, trying to be wise, etc., but not being spiritual. They know that the mental person cannot meet with reality. Whatever happens to them, they cannot meet reality. I know of such cases. Even when reality appeared to him, he thought that this is a hallucination. Of course, he has no perception. Parasites look upon the idea of God, of purpose, of self-awareness with mockery. But this mockery is a sign of a long and very serious sickness, a sickness of the consciousness, one of the worst things that these parasites have managed to rob, according to the Toltecs, a deep part of the consciousness of the person too. So not only from the body, from the mind, and from the heart, they have also reached to the consciousness as well, and they have managed to rob a big part of the consciousness. And the pure place in the consciousness is a place for the higher ideas. In this way, the person begins to lose their balance, their faith, and they start to build shallow plans for their life. Today, humankind as a whole is a humankind that has been lied to, and this was accomplished by the parasites coming from Atlantis and acting now as well. Whoever serves evil, says the Toltecs, they cannot be treated. They are doubly sick. They can only be cured by the parasites. The goal of the parasites is to instill that the purpose of life is material and not spiritual. Of course, this is why there are people having 7 apartments, an apartment with 144 rooms, but their loneliness invades, and the parasites, etc. Having lost the spiritual, the person tries to replace it with the material. I always smile at this, because this is like missing health and trying to replace it with sickness. There is just no sense wanting to replace health with sickness. The big pandemics are relations between the parasites and people. This is mutual life between people and parasites. This is called big pandemics. Big pandemics are a peculiar meeting of 2 different civilizations which have a point of interaction. For the Toltecs, all events which are happening are energy events. I will tell you, even conversations between people, this is an exchange of energy, of words, of beings. This is why with some person you feel burdened and with others not so. It depends on what type of consciousness you are speaking with, what exchange there is. So energy events, energy circumstances. The battle between religions and teachings is also the work of parasites. In fact, there is no battle, but people are battling on the lower levels when they have not understood their teachings. Because in every teaching, in its pure part, God is there, and there is unity. Everywhere there are true teachings. They are all of the same root, and this is why Christians do not like Muhammad, do not like Lao Tzu, etc. Others do not like others because they do not have an open perception. They do not have a vastness of consciousness. And within Christianity itself, there is a battle as well, because the parasites are everywhere. But I must remind again, there is true Orthodox Christianity. I have presented something from it. Further in time, I will present a deeper part, but there are not simply Christians. This is Christ and the disciples. These are the Gnostics. This is Melchizedek. This is Meister Eckhart. Jakob Biom. Primordial, true, purified, deep consciousness. This is a whole different kind, and it is primordial. And of course, to some extent, as I have told you before, some saints also take part, but only to some extent. Sometime I will explain to you why there are not yet true in Christianity. What must be understood, according to the Toltecs, is not the sacred scriptures. In this case, let us say the Bible, but impeccability and the pure life. So there is something more important. The Bible you will leave aside. It is truly something secondary. Pure life is something primary. When you purify yourself, you will have the right to study the Bible correctly and all the sacred scriptures of the nations, and you will study them, but in the right way. Impeccability, second idea for contemplation. Through perseverance in impeccability, the Toltecs gradually accumulate a mighty supreme energy, pure energy, and when the eagle, i.e. God, called the eagle for them, gives them the condition, i.e. a heavier currents, they jump beyond the world and beyond the universe. They receive a gap between the worlds and they exit the limitations. Through this accumulation, they overcome all the kinds of parasites, both external and internal, created and uncreated, and the Toltecs become a part of the secret of the eagle, because they have chosen the eagle, and the eagle has chosen them. I will explain. If a person does not have an aware and pure intent, they do not need to accumulate energy. Why? Because then it will destroy them. It is like an alcoholic amassing a lot of money, a big vault or something similar. An alcoholic does not have something to do. They are not masters of themselves, and other beings, parasites, will spend their money. And the master even says, it is others that are drinking, not the alcoholic. It is completely other beings that are drinking in the person, and the person is paying the bills. The impeccable one has no perception of death, and therefore it does not exist. If the impeccable one were to perceive death, it would exist, but they have no perception. The eagle takes this perception away from them, and I will say it again. What exists is what you perceive, and what you do not perceive. It has been removed. I will clarify something here. I will divert for a bit. A woman I knew had a sickness some time ago, cancer. She said, "I do not believe." She wants to not perceive it, to lie to herself. No, cancer, you have it. You must take serious internal measures, not act indifferent. You must work out a strategy and so on. Sometimes you may act indifferent and remove something, but this is up to a point. But if you take serious inner precautions, then cancer may very easily leave. Many people have removed it, but this is a matter of pure intention and another direction of development. Impeccability is part of the eagle, and therefore in it there is no perception of death. Here the parasite of death is removed, because through impeccability you are aware of the worlds of the eagle and not of the fallen worlds. This way has nothing in common with stagnation. I will divert again for a bit, even though this is in the next lecture, and I will repeat it to you next time. A Sufi sage wanted to give a lecture to Sufi children, not indigo children. They are far from the truth. I mean Sufi children. So he said, "Today I shall speak to you of the end of the world and of Judgment Day." The children started screaming very loudly, "Hooray!" Very loudly, a big joy. The lecture was ruined. How would you speak to imperishable beings? You can threaten the earthly ones. Even without threatening them, they are scared. But how would you speak to imperishable spiritual beings? What lecture of the end of the world? They live in the Sufi place, i.e. in the pure place. There, such things do not have an effect. To the world, you can speak a lot of nonsense. It does not matter. The mental stagnation in the person. This is a sum of parasites with their opinions. They have formed opinions in the person. So sometime, if you think that you are talking with the person, no, you are talking with the other beings. The one who devotes themselves to impeccability, according to the toltecs, they become dark for the parasites. The parasites begin to lose them. They begin to not see them properly and lose them more and more because light, purity are dark for these parasites. According to the toltecs, outside of impeccability, sciences, religions, and teachings are illusory. So without this purity, without this impeccability, whatever science you are involved in, whatever medicine you are involved in time, I will speak to you of Paracelsus, an exceptional being, a heavenly doctor, but he is simultaneously a scientist, a sage, a mystic, and a Rosicrucian. He wanted for God to make him a true doctor, and he knows such things about the secrets of medicine, which, if all the doctors in the world were to gather, excluding the great masters, it is not certain if they would know even 1/10 of what he does, or 1/100th, because this is a being who knew what exactly to devote himself to. But he is much more than a doctor, and this is why he has both visible and secret successes, and God has really elevated him highly because he knew his own intentions. Besides, he knows secrets of the ether which the scientists do not know. He knows secrets of the gnomes, the undines, the salamanders, as a whole of the spirits, and he knows when to introduce the word into a medication and when not to, etc. In time, I will make you familiar with this exceptional being, a very rare sage and mystic. So according to the Toltecs, outside of impeccability, whatever else you are occupied with, this is illusion. The Toltec always observes and examines every act of theirs very vigilantly, because only in this way does perception lead them in towards the secret of the eagle, into the secret of truth. And the Master has said in one place, one wrong action and your whole philosophy ends. But I am a follower of Deunov. I am such and such. It makes no difference. One wrong action. This is why the person must train this. Why an action? Because the action is the fruit of thoughts and feelings. It is something which has ripened in the thoughts and feelings, and it appears as action. And when it is wrong, it shows what your thoughts are, what your feelings are, what is a whole chain of things. Precisely here, the matter is of impeccability. You reach this ancient perception, called with the Toltecs the third ring of power. This means, this ring, a total destruction and removal of all evil. A total destruction in the sense of removal. Only the one who has reached this perception, the third ring, has achieved the measure of the word culture. The word culture in the Atlantean language means imperishableness, primordiality. From here, culture starts. Everything else is common talk of culture. When Confucius saw the eyes of Lao Tzu, he saw this culture and he was frightened. Those were the eyes of the abyss, the eyes of Tao. He could not bear them. He had a mental culture. He upheld being humane. He upheld humanity. But he did not have the truth within himself, which means that he was very far from the true culture, even though, in a certain sense, he is a sage. In time, I will explain to you, he is a sage, but he is not yet in the right way. There are many types of sages and many levels. Languages are over 6,700, but they cannot explain the third ring of power, because this ring is a secret from the abyss, a key from the abyss, i.e. it comes from the secret origin. With the Toltecs, this is called the 17th sky. Proverbs and Sayings of Atlantis, Lecture 3. The wise one strikes evil without destroying it. The wise one is an undefined clarity. The person is of supreme worlds, but when they do not know themselves, they are of this world. The wise one is a seeker of the undefined, i.e. the boundlessness. The person is born, says the Toltecs, in order to become an unriddler of themselves, not to solve riddles, an unriddler of themselves. Wise is the one who in dark days glows and shines, in dark days, not in joyful days, In dark days they glow and shine. This is a measure for wisdom. Whoever allows evil in themselves is incapable of living, i.e., this ability is already lost. I will add, the matter is, according to the master, of the smallest evil. If there is the smallest evil, there is already death and parasites. Violence chains the person in the shackles of the grave. So anyone who has allowed violence, they are chained in their body. Their fate is heavy, say the toltecs. If you are seeking the truth, you must go all the way to the end, not to seek it to some extent and say, there is no truth. You must go all the way to the end. The wise one is not interested in the sun, but in the dark, in which they can rise and shine. In the sun you cannot shine, but in the dark, Golgotha, etc., this is your noble moment. There is nothing more important in life than this. To meet in your way an ancient person. The wise one is composed of that which they have given in their past. So not what they have studied. The wise one is composed of what they have given in their past. Many people talk, but wisdom is a rarity. When the truth has begun living within you, you are already boundlessness. The wise one surpasses any fall and any ascent. The wise one does not depend on them, and this is why I greatly approve when Lao Tzu says, no heroes exist. He totally denies heroism, and he is completely right. Many of the heroes, almost all heroes, and feats, at a higher degree, have not achieved self-awareness. They have fought against something else, but not with themselves and their parasites, their weaknesses, especially the hidden weaknesses. In order to do good, you must be of the boundlessness. If you want to keep one secret, never know it completely. Air is honey for the fish, if it is allowed to know it. So air is an environment of a higher degree, but if it is allowed, if the fish has love, to it air is an elixir, otherwise air is death. When the impure one becomes knowledgeable, they fail. Here I will only divert for a bit. Al-Halaj says, when the impure one speaks reasonably, they will be punished. There is no forgiveness, because they are speaking something else, something which is not their essence. When the impure one becomes knowledgeable, they fail their own way. A well-concealed lie always receives a knife in its heart. Without the truth, the person is a boat with no bottom. Whoever is in the ancient way, they do not have mitot in themselves, i.e., do not have the world in themselves, do not have chaos. Whoever succeeds in penetrating into fear brings courage out of it. So if you manage to penetrate to the bottom of fear, of course, together with God, with purity, you bring courage out of it. Fear is slavery to the old spirituality, the one which has fallen. The precisely speaking person is not human, they are spirit. The precisely speaking one is spirit, said in another way, and not a person. The word is an ancient warrior, a concealed warrior, secretly in the person. Whoever wants to know the secret of life, they must have descended into the fall and rise up from there. In the world, there is no time if you are spirit. The root is a flower on the outside and a secret on the inside. The flower is only a part of the root, a part which has come out, but the secret has not come out. Whoever does not succeed in understanding God, they will lose him. When you create an enemy for yourself, you will depend on them, i.e., you are making yourself dependent. The dark cannot endure inspiration. Fearsome is, say the toltecs, only fear, but it itself is also afraid of something. Only the work which engulfs you completely is your guide and saviour. Disasters are created for the mad ones. They are their fate. People fell not through evil, but through their own incomprehension. The fool was created in order to self-delude. It is true that sometimes they delude others, but this is another topic. They are created in order to live out all these things of self-delusion. Neither the evil person or the good one are living correctly. All obvious feats are not worth as much as one fallen leaf. And truly, the true feat is something deeply internal. It is connected to self-awareness, and it is concealed as the sage is concealed, in humility, and it is clothed in big modesty. You just cannot recognize it. It is concealed. If you can burn away your darkness, your own darkness, you are a sage. Anger originates from your old source, stagnation. The fool values happiness, the wise one values suffering. When the water reaches over your head, hands up. A very beautiful thing, simply hands up. Do not ask why, just hands up. Everything harmful is good for unreasonable people. There are some proverbs of the Turanians, odd proverbs. The good person also creates evil around themselves. Take note, an odd proverb, Turanian one. In another place, the Turanians say, "We have come in order to be trials for good people, but not everyone deserves," says the Turanians. The black Turanian wisdom, not everyone deserves, and not everyone is worthy for us to become their enemy. A worthy person is needed, who will value us, who is noble and elevated, and then they deserve for us to be their enemies. But it is not worth it to be an enemy of the inferior fallen ones. I will explain. The good person is not wise. All good people who do not know themselves are actually concealedly dark people. They appear good people, but they are not. There are many people even, explains Paracelsus, who do a lot of good deeds. They will not acquire salvation because they have no soul. They have lost their soul. They are akin to many beings who have no soul but simply do good. There are people who grow stupid in good, too. And there are people who are reborn in the dark, too. Unhappiness is sorrow unenlightened. So if any of you have sorrow, let them make an effort to enlighten it, and not say, "Why did God send me such a thing?" The fool is a fool because they have not brought meaning to their suffering. This is the reason for them to stay in foolishness. I will repeat again, the fool is a fool because they have not brought meaning to their suffering. They are always suffering, but there is no reasoning. there is no fruit. Within the hardship there is concealed impetus, which you must draw out. So whatever hardship comes to you, it comes in order for you to draw out impetus. Both the mad one and the happy one are deluded. Mice fear even the statue of a cat. So the copy itself of the cat, the aura itself, as many mice as there are, as big as they are, the fear of the cat, primordially innate, always remains. The fool is convinced that wisdom too is stupid. In this way, they believe themselves. The one who inspires darkness in others has been captured by darkness. Hate flows too, but it is not water. Whenever you leave this world, take with you the boundlessness. The priest Atlantean, third idea for contemplation. The king of Atlantis, we will touch on his wisdom here, although shortly, as I have told you, subsequently he was reincarnated as Melchizedek. And regarding the ancient Thoth, Tehuti, he is his close brother and his grandson. He says, there is a secret place where the voice of the worlds originates from. Return into yourself and the secret will embrace you. Evil is never committed by the one who follows the bottomless truth. The person has two mighty weapons, purity and softness. Purity removes, softness cuts. Never violate the boundlessness within you. One small wrong step is a violation. The wise one does not gaze into goodness, but into truth. Good does not interest them. It does not even deserve to be in their interest. The wise one gazes into truth. There is no gift equal to the abyss, equal to the boundlessness. Marvellous is the dried up spring. It has returned into its freedom. The abyss knows nothing of death, i.e. the infinite, the boundlessness. There is no such notion there. The boundless person is a rare beauty on earth. The essence of all sacred scriptures is in one sentence. Be alike to the abyss. Be alike to the boundlessness. Whoever is masterful in manifestation, they manifest what is unable to be seen. The word is a priest. This is what the priest says. When it is purified, the word is a priest. The word is the conqueror of the dark worlds. To know yourself means to deal with yourself, but this requires a secret knowledge which must descend upon you. But you must succeed in drawing it towards you. Beware of knowing a lot because you might not implement it. Be aware of knowing a lot because you might not implement something of what you know. The word delivers things, but it is the carrier of things. It can carry all sorts of beings and worlds. But there is also danger. I will divert only for a bit. Eliphas Levi wanted to know deeper secrets of magic after he left the church and became a hermetic. So for 40 days he purified himself and fasted. He prepared and he summoned Apollonius of Tyana to reveal something deep to him. And Apollonius appears, but Eliphas passes out. He cannot bear such a high frequency, and he did not know what he wanted, did not know what his own intentions were. Perseverance and steadfastness, these are the fearsome powers of the sage, something that no one can take away from them, perseverance and steadfastness. The eagle is word without voice, i.e., God is word without voice, uncreated word, but when it must be, it is so convincing that nothing else can intervene. The eagle in the person is radiated as a mighty, pure, steadfast will, both mighty and pure. Purity is allowed to become a mighty will. The word sculpts the boundlessness within the person. Next time we will speak of the Sufi. Aum.